MPs on the Justice Committee heard from a range of witnesses today on the controversial prostitution bill, including some with a very personal stake in the laws. There are those who agree with the government and the need to toughen up laws to help stamp out a profession that exploits women, and others who say it will further victimize women and force them to work in more dangerous conditions. So how exactly will the proposed changes affect sex workers, and does it protect them or put them in peril? Joining me now, the founder of Walk With Me Canada Victim Services and a survivor of human trafficking, Tamia Nagy. Good to see you. You were one of the witnesses today. You have a very personal take and account of how this debate affects you. Can you give us a sense of what your story is and why it matters to you?
Yeah, I was trafficked at the age of 20 from Hungary to Canada under the impression that I will be a babysitter or a nanny, and I ended up working in a strip joints. But my very first day when I started working in a sex industry in Canada, because I was forced, because I had to pay off my debt, was in a massage place, which was an indoor place with the security cameras and bodyguards, so on and so forth. And my very first experience was 3 young men entering the room and literally just having the way with my body like those big birds with the dead body on the side of the road. And little did I know that when it was all said and done, there was a bodyguard who was watching the whole act on video. So I was indoors. I was safe, so to speak, But
your experience is someone that was forced into it. There were people there today who chose to go into it, chose for whatever reason to go into sex work. Do you think that some of what they were saying the government should take into account, that some of the things that they were proposing maybe need to be listened to?
It's an extremely hard debate, yes. And I totally agree with that. I do agree that there are women in the industry today that are there on their own will, but I would really like to just highlight what the own will is, meaning that there is no other choices for them. If they were coming from the right family, if everything was lined up for them, they would be in colleges and university. Yeah. No question in my mind. No woman wakes up at 80 years of age or 15 or 16 and say, "Mommy, I would like to serve 10, 15 men a day for the rest of my life." So I think the debate should be about focusing on what is our message to our next society. You as a mother, do you want to tell your 12-year-old daughter that, honey, you can apply for college, or if it's too hard for you, you can start to become a prostitute?
You're generally supportive of the government's legislation.
Absolutely.
Do you have any concerns, though, about what some of the other organizations have said about the safety of sex workers? For instance, the issues around being able to communicate, advertise sex work, pre-screen clients, those kinds of things. Do you think that the government has taken into account the safety of sex workers enough?
My answer to this is, why do we need to come up with safer legislations to a job that is so violent? Why don't we look at the fact that this job, quote unquote, that I don't even like to call a job, is so violent that it causes so many harms, not just to the prostitutes, but to the Johns and the demand and itself, and to the society altogether. So I don't even want to entertain those conversations anymore. I'm just literally tired of them. I think the picture is way bigger that we need to look at. It's not about the women's safety that are in an industry, because the violence is never outside on the street or whatever. It happens in the room between you and a John, and there is no way to keep you safe from that.
So how would this legislation have helped you, given that you were a victim of human trafficking, you were forced into a situation? Would it have helped you?
I think in many ways it would have helped me. I would have probably, I was told and brainwashed that I'm a prostitute now, I'm just a slut, and no one's going to do anything about me. I will end up in jail because it is illegal, and if the police will come, they will not rescue you, they will throw you in jail. As a matter of fact, today, if a police would come to my door, they would ask me if I would like to get out, and I would say yes.
Thank you. I appreciate your perspective. It's an interesting one. Thanks.
Thank you.
That was one view on the government's prostitution reforms. Over the course of the week, the Justice Committee will be hearing from a range of academics, lawyers, and advocates for those in the industry. Now, for a different perspective on the bill is Naomi Sayers. She is a former sex worker representing the Canadian Alliance for Sex Work Law Reform. Good to see you.
Thank you.
You have a very different experience. You're a former sex worker. Can you tell us a little bit about your personal experience and why you're so invested in this piece of legislation?
The reason that I'm invested is because of my personal experiences. I started working in Northern Ontario in my home community, and I left my home community to go to Southern Ontario for more opportunities, but I also did that in the context of sex work. So it provided opportunities for me to move and to find more employment and educational opportunities. The reason I'm so invested in this bill is because of my friends who also do sex work, or friends who have done sex work, and the realities of their lives are not included within the discussion of this bill.
So what do you mean? Why isn't the government's approach here listening to their concerns?
Well, it's definitely a very moralistic approach that during the panel hearing today, my colleague Emily, she was saying that, you know, Peter MacKay actually admitted that he didn't want to hear from sex worker organizations, and I don't understand that logic because they are the experts in their own lives.
What is the thing, the piece in the bill that would have the most damaging effect on sex workers? What is the thing that would make their lives more difficult?
Well, it's actually the whole bill itself. We completely oppose the bill in its entirety, not in...
If you had to pick one, though, knowing your friends and knowing your experience, what would it be? The advertising, the fact that you're not allowed to solicit
criminalizing
around?
clients. We have seen from Vancouver's downtown east side that criminalizing clients doesn't work, and it doesn't increase their safety, and it doesn't do anything to protect them.
In what way?
Well, when you criminalize clients, you limit a sex worker's ability to screen them. Clients are also hesitant to give screening information because they face that legitimate fear of arrest, and sex workers' ability to negotiate safer sex practices and just safer work environments is severely limited.
So it should be decriminalized, legalized? What's your position?
Well, see, we have to differentiate between those two terms.
Yes.
Legalized was actually, we did have prostitution wasn't illegal before this, so it was legalized. Decriminalized is the sense that we just remove the criminal, the code, the sections relating to that regulate prostitution, and that's what we would like to happen, because when we focus on prostitution, we don't focus on, say, if a sex worker were to report violence, police focus instead on the act of prostitution as opposed to the violence.
You made a point in the hearing, as your colleague did, of saying that there are women that choose sex work. That's hard for some people to understand. Explain why that happens. You know, how can you choose to go into this industry and this field?
Well, we never. This is, and like I was saying, it's such a value-laden term, this choice or to choose. We don't ever ask minimum wage workers if they choose their minimum wage job. So I don't see the logic in asking why we are so invested in finding out why sex workers choose their job.
But it has become a debate about that, the fact that there are women that are forced into it versus women that choose to do it.
Whether they're forced into it or whether they want to do it, those are two different situations. So forced would be exploitative, and we already have sections relating to the criminal code that address that. And if they want to do it, then they should be able to set the boundaries.
So what do you think the government needs to do here then going forward?
I think that we need to look at other models. We're always discussing just the Swedish model,
the Nordic model,
and a made in Canada Swedish model. The old laws were a made in Canada Swedish model, so it's just reinforcing what the Bedford decision said was unconstitutional.
Good to meet you. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate your perspective.
Thank you.